afternoon, and welcome to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. And what a happy day it is for the New Orleans Saints to turn things around on the 2023 season in just as dramatic of a turnaround from one bad week to one good week as you could possibly have. The Saints beat the New England Patriots 34-0 here in Foxborough, Massachusetts. We're live at Gillette Stadium. I'm Zach Ewing. This is the Saints Insider Postgame Show brought to you by Tulane Doctors. There's like a football behind me and the cars going by, so I may get knocked over and go viral. I'm okay with that. I think the New Orleans Saints are okay with today as well. It's a beautiful day here in Foxborough. I know it's beautiful back home as well. I think it's like low 70s and low to mid 60s here. Breezy, just a beautiful day for football. And the Saints played like they were ready to right their season and put it back on the track that everyone thought it was going to be on. They win 34-0. They are 3-2. Drop us your comments and your questions, and we will show them on the screen. We'll get to the questions as they come in. And a little bit later, Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan will be coming out from that corner and the Saints locker room to tell us what the Saints have to say about this one. And I'm sure they'll be willing to talk today a lot more than they have been in the past couple of weeks. So, look, 304 to 156 in total yardage. This graphic says 306. They had one more kneel down after I made that graphic at the end. So 156, but just a completely dominant performance started by the defense. Tyrann Mathieu has a pick six to start the scoring in the first quarter, and then the Saints offense, lo and behold, got in on the action after a week of questions about play calling, about execution, about offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael's job, everything. The Saints answered the bell in a big way. They scored 3 touchdowns on offense. They had one from an Alvin Kamara run, and then 2 Derek Carr touchdown passes, one to Chris Olave. It was his first touchdown of the season. And then a shovel pass to Foster Moreau. It was his first touchdown as a Saint, playing for his hometown team. And Tyrann Mathieu actually also his first touchdown as a Saint for another New Orleans native. So a cool storyline there. And the defense just continued to be dominant. They got the turnovers. They held the Patriots to 156 yards. It was a cascade of blues coming down on the New England offense after just about every possession here from the Patriots faithful, and a lot of them just kneeling left and half. So, I mean, could not have been more dominant for the Saints. And we're here to wrap it up for you. So leave your comments and questions. I want to let you know that the Saints Insider Postgame Show is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. When it comes to healthcare, choose a partner that sets the standard. Tulane Doctors are bringing the medicine of tomorrow to the Gulf South today. Find your physician at TulaneDoctors.com. So the Saints win it 34-0. They're 3-2. And let's go through some stats. Let's talk about. We talked about how this happened. Tyrann Mathieu with the pick six to get things started, and the Saints offense, to their credit, just really kept it rolling after a couple of bad series to start the game. 19 yards on I think they got 2 first downs on that series, and then had to punt. And then 3 and out on their second series. Then they get the pick six, and then it really starts. After the pick six, of course, the Patriots get the ball back. They missed a field goal. That was one of only 2 times New England even crossed the 50-yard line in this game, I believe. The other one came in the second half, and they punted from the Saints 40. So it's still 7-0. And then the Saints 8-play, 62-yard drive. That one ended with the Alvin Kamara 2-yard touchdown run, which another cool storyline gives Kamara the Saints all-time record with 73 touchdowns. He was tied with Marcus Colston and at 72 touchdowns, and now he stands alone with 73 with his first touchdown of the season. Of course, after missing the first 2 games of his suspension. So then the Saints force another 3 and out. Then they get the ball right back and go 59 yards in 5 plays, probably their best drive of the game, and maybe of the year, to be quite frank. It started with a little dump off to Kendry Miller, but Derek Carr put that dump off in a perfect place where Miller caught it on the run, made a man miss. He gets a 33-yard gain on that play. Alvin Kamara 7 yards, Taysom Hill 12 yards, Alvin Kamara 2 yards, and then Carr finds Olave wide open in the back of the end zone for a 5-yard touchdown. Just like that, it's 21-0, and you're kind of looking around at the people in the press box. Who is this team? What is going on? And then, to your point, Audrey, didn't play anybody. So first of all, in the NFL, every win counts the same. Nobody is bad. But I will say, I agree with you in that in the second half, conversation today changed from, oh, thank God the Saints have shown a pulse and shown that they're going to be okay and competitive this season, into just how bad are these Patriots. Patriots are 1-4. They did beat the Jets, salty defensive team, beat them, I think 15-10 back in week 2. And look, we're talking about the Patriots. They played the Philadelphia Eagles tough in this stadium. They played the Miami Dolphins tough in this stadium. So this is not a team that rolls over all that easily, although it has to be said, this is 2 weeks in a row now. They lost 38-3 to the Dallas Cowboys last week, and now 34-0 to the New Orleans Saints today. So lots of problems in Patriots land. They're 1-4. I just heard a Patriots reporter say, are they tanking for Caleb Williams, or do they even have to tank, or are they just that bad? So that's part of the conversation today, for sure, is this team, the Saints team, cured? Are they okay going forward? Is this a performance that they can build on, or are the Patriots just that bad, and it was more about New Orleans being bad than New Orleans? Much more to come on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We'll take a quick break here and give you a message from Tulane Doctors, and be back with more from Gillette Stadium right after this.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Zach Ewing here live from Gillette Stadium. Apologize if we did have some audio problems there on the previous segment, but those should be fixed at this point. Let us know in the comments if things are still screwy on the audio end. But Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan will be coming out from the Saints locker room before too long. After talking to a victorious Saints team, they beat the New England Patriots 34-0 today. And that is not a typo. If you missed the game, the Saints did score 34 points. And it's the most points they've scored since they scored 39 against the Seattle Seahawks in, I believe that was week 6 last year. So almost an entire season. This is week 5. That was week 6. They also scored 34 a couple weeks later in a loss to the Arizona Cardinals. But this is 34 is the most since that 39 against the Seahawks. It's their biggest victory since a 38-3 victory over the Green Bay Packers to open the 2021 season. And it is their biggest shutout victory since 2012. I believe that was a 41-0 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Don't have that one in front of me, but it is their biggest shutout victory in 12 years. On the other side for the Patriots, just the second time they've ever been shut out in this stadium, which opened in 2002. So it basically is the Belichick era. The other time came in 2016. They were shut out by the Buffalo Bills, 16-0. This is the worst shutout loss in New England Patriots history. The previous bad was in 1969, a 31-0 loss. So this is historically bad for the New England Patriots and historically good for the New Orleans Saints. Not quite as much history, but still very good. And I mean, I have to think, just reading y'all's comments, it's got to be cathartic for the Saints too. I know it is for their fans and for the Saints to kind of get the taste of that 26-9 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Superdome last week out of their mouths and say, hey, look,
not only can we compete in this league, but we think we're still a good team. And last week was the anomaly. This week isn't. And I mean, I have to say, like, all the panic about Pete Carmichael and the play calling and the execution and Derek Carr and whether it was going to work. And I'm not excluding myself from that. I mean, there was some of that from me too. But you've also got to look at it this way. If we pull back, this team had a 17-0 lead at Lambeau Field a couple of weeks ago in the third quarter when Derek Carr got hurt. He did not play the rest of that game. Saints blow the lead. It was a comprehensive failure. It wasn't just because Derek Carr went out. Offense didn't play well. Defense stopped playing well. Special teams, Blake Grupe missed a field goal. I mean, it was a comprehensive failure. But if Derek Carr stays in that game, you've got to think the Saints move the ball a little bit better. Maybe that's enough to hold off the Packers and win that game. And if that happens, this team is 4-1 right now. So I know, like, you don't get do-overs. You don't get to cash in on those ifs in the NFL. If we could do that, the Saints would have won the division last year if they didn't blow a lead to the Bucs in Tampa Bay. But you have to pull back and realize how close this team is to being 4-1 and leading the NFC South, and being the number 2 seed in the NFC right now. I mean, it's very close to that. Now, you could also turn around and say they almost lost to Tennessee, and really only held off Carolina. And this team could be 2-3, and we were panicking, and so we're still sort of in that middle zone of not knowing exactly what this Saints team will be. Almost a third of the way through the season now, 5 games into the 18-week schedule. So, I mean, obviously a step in the right direction for the Saints as they win 34-0. So give us your questions, your comments, keep them coming, and we'll get to some of those questions as we can. Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan will be coming out shortly. Some stats today. Derek Carr finishes 18 of 26 for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of the talking points last week was how reluctant Derek was and the Saints offense as a whole was to push the ball down the field. He had 0.4 air yards per target last week, one of the lowest in Saints history and the lowest in the NFL period since week 6 of last year. It was much better today. I haven't seen the air yards per target number, but I can tell you it was 7 yards per completion today. Still quite a few dump-offs to Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller, but also pushed the ball downfield. Real nice throw early in the game when it was still competitive, where Carr moved around in the pocket, found himself a window, and fired a strike to Michael Thomas for 26 yards. So I think much better from Derek Carr today. He was only sacked twice, 115 quarterback rating. So about all you could ask for from Derek. Alvin Kamara, 22 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Not a great average, 3.6 yards per carry. And Saints as a whole, 42 carries for 136 yards. Only a 3.2 average. But look, first of all, that includes the kneel downs at the end of the game. It also includes an entire fourth quarter of everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run the ball and you'll just take 3 yards and, move on and take a few minutes off the clock. Like they were much better in the first 2.5 quarters when this game was still in doubt. And the Saints, I think, ran the ball 17 or 18 times in the first half and had a yards per carry of over 4. So that's what you want to see from the running game, and Alvin Kamara leading the charge there. In the receiving game, Michael Thomas, 4 catches, 65 yards. Kendre Miller, we mentioned that 33-yard catch and run that he had. He finishes with 4 receptions for 53 yards. Rashid Shaheed, 2 catches, 28 yards. Alvin Kamara, 3 for 17. And Chris Olave, only 2 catches for 12 yards, but he did have the touchdown. So, Chris Olave, only 3 catches over the past 2 weeks. I think that's a sign that this offense still has plenty of room to grow, can still get better. Defenses are certainly going to try to take away Chris Olave, but the Saints did a good job of spreading the ball around. We saw Kamara get involved. We saw Kendre Miller get involved. We saw Foster Moreau score a touchdown. Michael Thomas had a nice day. Rashid Shaheed catches a couple balls. And this is really with the offense only operating, for 2.5 quarters. After that, it was really in garbage time mode and just handing the ball off for the most part. So, look, a very positive day for this team. A 34-0 victory. Much, much needed. 3-2 on the season. And I don't think it cures everything. Again, we're talking about were the Saints that good or the Patriots that bad? It's a question I'll ask Luke and Jeff what they think. But no matter what, in the NFL, you take the wins where you can get them. You certainly take the easy wins where you can get them. And I'll say this too. The Saints stayed healthy today. JT Gray left the game with a hamstring injury. That's not a negligible loss. He's a special teams ace. And then Adam Prentice, the fullback, leaves with a knee injury. No word on the extent of those, but you'll take that. You play a game in the NFL, you're going to have an injury or two. So a special teams guy and a fullback, look, they got out of this game healthy. They go back to Houston next week. If you can find a way to beat Houston, and I want to talk about the Texans in a minute, but if you can find a way to beat Houston, you're 4-2 after 6 weeks. You've played 4 games on the road, only 2 at the Dome. And the second half of this schedule, look, you get the Giants at home, you get the Bears at home, you get the Panthers at home. Some of the worst teams in the NFL are coming to New Orleans in the second half of the season. So if you can find a way to beat Houston, get to 4-2, even with Jacksonville coming in on a Thursday night, things look pretty good for the Saints all of a sudden. We talk about how bad the schedule was preseason and why that was a reason to be optimistic. And I still think that holds true. Look, they're 3-2. They're right probably where they should be after 5 weeks and trending up after today, certainly. So talking about those Houston Texans, they were in Atlanta to play the Saints' arch rival Atlanta Falcons today. And that one came down to the wire. Young-Ho Koo hit a 37-yard field goal to give the Falcons the victory with 2 seconds left, 21-19. So that was a back-and-forth game. Houston hit a field goal right before the first half clock expired to take a 9-7 lead. They ended up leading 12-7. Falcons scored Desmond Ridder to Bijan Robinson to take the lead. Eventually led 18-12. And then with 1:49 left, C.J. Stroud throws a go-ahead touchdown pass to Dalton Schultz to give the Texans a 19-18 lead. And Desmond Ridder able to get in that 2-minute drill and give the Falcons the win. So Falcons are also 3-2. This division, look, is not nearly as bad as people thought outside of the Carolina Panthers, who lost again. They're 0-5. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were idle this week. They're 3-1. Saints 3-2. Falcons also 3-2. So it's a three-way race for the NFC South. Bucs have the toughest schedule of those 3 teams. They also have a half-game lead and head-to-head victories already over the New Orleans Saints. So, it's hard to frame a division race 5 games into the season, but I think you can probably safely say the Panthers are not going to win it this year, and so we've got ourselves a nice little 3-team race. Saints' next test, go to Houston, face that rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and see what happens. And by the way, the other note about that Falcons victory, Desmond Ridder threw for 329 yards, a career high by a long shot. He was 28 of 37. Falcons moved the ball for 447 yards in this game. And so on one side, if you're a Saints fan, you got to worry a little bit about the Atlanta Falcons. And, are they a legitimate threat going forward? If they can put up 400-plus yards of offense, they're a little bit like the Saints. They've got a good defense. I mean, if they can do that offensively, then this team may be a threat to win 9, 10, 11 games and have the division title come down to that Week 18 game at the Superdome between Atlanta and New Orleans. On the other hand, if you're just looking ahead to next week, we got to pump the brakes on Houston a little bit. Houston Texans had a couple of nice victories, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers like a drum last week, and C.J. Stroud was kind of the talk of the NFL, and he didn't play poorly in this game. 20 of 35, 249 yards and a touchdown. But this Texans defense still problematic. Their offensive line still problematic. The Texans are a team the Saints should feel like they could go into Houston and compete against. So that's the next test for the New Orleans Saints to 3-2, beat the New England Patriots 34-0. You're watching the Saints Insider Postgame Show live from Foxborough on the Gillette Stadium field. We're awaiting Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan to join us from the Saints locker room. Postgame Show is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. We're going to hear a quick word from them and be back after this break.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. all in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Live television, folks. Forgot my mic. It's the Saints Postgame Show live from Gillette Stadium here in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I'm Zach Ewing, Luke Johnson, and Jeff Duncan on their way from the Saints locker room here. The Saints victorious over the New England Patriots, 34-0. And really very easy to have a completely different feeling about this team than we did just 7 days ago after a pretty dreary 26-9 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Stefan asks, is Atlanta as talented as us? That's a great question. And look, keep the questions coming. I want to talk about this. I want to know how y'all are feeling. And I also want to know how y'all feel about the stretch coming forward here, which really could set the Saints up well for the second half. As far as Stefan's question, the Falcons, I would say they're very similar teams to the Saints. They got some free agents in, some from the Saints in the offseason to bolster that defense, and so far it's played very well. I would actually say, and a week ago y'all would all laugh at this, but I would actually say the Saints offense is much more talented than the Falcons offense. Bijan Robinson's an outstanding rookie. They drafted him in the top 10. He's going to be a good player in this league for a long time. But the Falcons don't have the weapons the Saints do. I mean, first of all, Desmond Ridder, very nice game today. You can't say he's on Derek Carr's level. Derek Carr's done this. He's been in the Pro Bowl 4 times. Does he have his warts? Sure. He has some problems. He's not a top 5 quarterback, but I think you have to give the edge to the Saints at quarterback. We talk about Bijan Robinson, but it's not like Alvin Kamara and Kendry Miller are slouches. Kendry Miller had a very nice game today, I thought. And then the big difference is the receivers. I mean, the Saints much more talented at receiver than the Atlanta Falcons. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed. And the offensive line, I think, probably works in progress for both teams. Saints offensive line was also very good today. I think of anything, and we can talk about the offense waking up. We can talk about how bad the Patriots were. We can talk about the pick 6 from Tyrann Mathieu, which the Saints defense was going to get one of those sooner or later. They are such a swarming secondary. They were just waiting for that. And Carl Granderson, by the way, had an unbelievable day today. He was the one who hit Mac Jones on that play, and the ball popped out, and Tyrann Mathieu intercepted it, returned it for a touchdown. So, like, we can talk about all those things. I think the most encouraging thing, point blank, for the Saints today, the most encouraging thing was that offensive line not only held its own, I think it was actually an asset for most of this game. The Saints were able to do, as I mentioned, really what they wanted with the run game for the first 2.5 quarters, averaged better than 4 yards per carry. The final numbers don't look great, but again, you're playing almost 20, 25 minutes of this game with everybody in the stadium knowing you're running. You had a couple of kneel downs at the end, so they finished 3.2 yards per carry. Okay, but they ran the ball a bunch and were able to move the sticks, and that keeps those pass rushers off of Derek Carr. Yeah, I just think if the Saints offensive line can do that going forward, you've got just an unbelievable chance for this offense to just be average, and that's what we're looking for, right? Like if you're a Saints fan, the Saints just need this offense to be fine. That was why there was so much excitement about bringing Derek Carr in. Derek Carr's not going to go win you the Super Bowl by himself, but he's certainly capable of leading an NFL average offense, which is about what the Saints were today. 304 yards. Could have been better if they were pushed, but they were fine. They scored 3 touchdowns, a couple of shorter drives, and then a longer drive, got some field goals. that's all you need when you have a defense like the Saints who can really shut down opposing offenses, particularly ones that are struggling as much as the New England Patriots. And so that's exactly what you want from this team. That's exactly what you got. And I think the comments about the O-line exactly right. That's the most encouraging thing that I saw all day today. Forget everything else. If you take one thing away, this offensive line is growing. And I actually thought last week against the Bucs, the O-line was okay. It wasn't really the problem. I mean, there's always a play here or a play there that you could point at and say, they messed this up and gave up a sack or missed a block on that running play. I mean, look, that stuff happens. You're not going to pitch a perfect game if you're an offensive line in the NFL. But they were very good. I thought they were. I thought they were okay last week. I thought they were very good this week, and I think they are. They're on their way to being a pretty good unit. One good thing, Luke Johnson and I sat here on the Saints Insider pregame show as James Hurst warmed up behind us and said, this is a good sign because James Hurst injured, Andres Pete also injured. They really needed one of those guys to play because otherwise you're starting to ask for Landon Young and Max Garcia to play a majority of the snaps. You don't want that. I mean, you don't want to be going down to your 7th and 8th offensive linemen. So the fact that James Hurst was able to suit up today, I thought he played well. I thought Trevor Penning, he's a tremendous run blocker. I mean, you can see why the Saints took him in the first round a year ago. The kid is a tremendous run blocker. He's still getting there in pass pro, but they may have something there if he continues to grow. And the right side of the line, Ryan Ramczyk, who has not played great the last couple of weeks, I thought he played much better as well. On the other side of the ball, as we continue here, Saints Insider postgame show brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Carl Granderson, man, number 96. That man was a monster in the backfield. He hit Mac Jones on the play that caused the pass to go awry. Tyrann Mathieu picks it off and returns it for a touchdown. But Mac Jones's passes were going awry no matter what. But that one went particularly bad. Carl Granderson also had another sack later. He had a big tackle for loss on Ezekiel Elliott for a 4-yard loss. And these are big plays when the game is still in doubt. You know, when it's 14-0 or whatever, and the Patriots are driving, and he shuts the drive down and says, "No, you're not getting any closer." And the Saints just able to dominate. Waiting on Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan from the locker room. I don't know if they're caught up. I just got a text from Rod Walker, who's not with us this weekend, but he's back home in New Orleans watching and saying DeMario Davis is at the lectern and going on for quite a while, as he has done in the past. So I do wonder if that's what is keeping Luke and Jeff. But we will continue rolling here on the Saints Insider postgame show, and really just what a brilliant performance for the New Orleans Saints. I do want to get Luke and Jeff's opinion on, was this the Saints being that good or the Patriots being that bad? But I think there was at least a little bit of both. And I think you have to give credit to the Saints for that all week long, from the minute, actually from before the minute the Bucs game ended, from the end of the third quarter in that game, maybe from halftime of that game, until really the end of the second drive today, when the Saints hadn't gotten any points their first two drives. You were hearing fire Pete Carmichael, let Ronald Curry take over the play calling. Dennis Allen doesn't know what he's doing. Derek Carr's not the answer. We wasted $150 million. You heard all that stuff. The Saints answered the bell today. They did. The defense answered the bell after not being very good last week against the Bucs. The offense answered the bell. Special teams answered the bell as Blake Grupe, 54-yard field goal and a 53-yard field goal outdoors in the wind. Are you kidding me? Like, that's of course the Saints can sit there and say the only field goal he's missed all year is the one that would have put him up against the Packers with a minute to go. But other than that, he's been perfect. New career long for him, 54 yards. That kind of gets lost in a blowout game. But you just all around performance very good. I thought even Lou Hedley, the punter, was better today. He kind of shanked his first punt, and then his other punts were very good. He had a couple of 50-yarders that held up in the air a long time. I think he forced a muff, which apparently is a thing Lou Hedley can do. He puts spin on the ball. He's got that Australian rules football deal going on, and he can make guys muff more punts than they usually do. So, like you can sit there and question this team, and rightfully so. And I did it, and Luke did it, and Jeff and Rod all week long, and question where this team is going and say Dennis Allen is not the man for the job. He's never had a winning record in the NFL. He can't do this, can't do. Well, if we're going to talk about all that, then after a performance like this, we got to praise him. So let's praise those guys. Dennis Allen had this team ready to play. Pete Carmichael, he didn't do anything crazy. I mean, I was actually half afraid after all the criticism they were going to come out and start throwing the ball all over the field today and risk a bunch of turnovers and incompletions and kind of go too far the other way where you don't think we're aggressive enough? Watch this. And but he didn't do that. The first play of the game was a dive play by Alvin Kamara. They punted their first 2 drives, but just kind of slowly and steadily grew into the game. And part of that too is the players executed better. And that's how this goes. Like, play calling looks better when the players play better. And I thought the players played better today. I also thought the play calling was a little bit, you establish the run. You let that back the defense off. Then you start throwing some passes. You spread the ball around. The lack of play action and motion in this offense, all those sorts of things, they're real things, but they're also not absolutely necessary to move the ball in the NFL. So you see lots of teams do it without that, and the Saints did it without that today. Will this be the best game the Saints play all season? I will say it is most certainly going to be their largest margin of victory all season. I'm comfortable in predicting they will not win any more games by 34 points. I don't think that's going to happen. That doesn't happen very often in the NFL anyway, and particularly when you kind of play this close to the vest defensive style. The Saints are trying to win games 24-14. They're not trying to win games 34-0. If it happens, of course, they'll take it, but I don't think that will happen. Is it the best game they'll play? No, I think it's interesting. I think their two best halves of the season by far were the first half here today and the first half in Green Bay. Now, the first half in Green Bay, they had a 17-0 lead. I think they got away with some things in that first half. The Packers missed a couple of shots down the field where Jordan Love missed a throw, or could have been a penalty called, and the Saints weren't called for the penalty. They'd had a punt return from Rashid Shaheed in that first half in Green Bay. Other than that, the offense didn't play all that well in the first half. But clearly, the best 2 halves this team has played are on the road in Green Bay, on the road at New England. So it's interesting, isn't it? Like, at the Dome, where the Saints used to just dominate teams, with Drew Brees, you go into that Dome and you'd be down 14-0 before you could blink. They're playing better on the road, though, so far this season, right? And even the game at Carolina, which was not nearly as explosive, but it was just fine. And so the Saints now 2-1 on the road easily could be 3-0 on the road. Let's see. Bench James Hurst when Pete is healthy. Interesting question. Like, Andres Pete's been a starter on this team for a long time, and James Hurst beat him out in the preseason in training camp for the starting spot. Did James Hurst do something to lose that job? I mean, he then got hurt. Andres Pete came in. I don't know that I would bench Hurst. I don't know that one guy is head and shoulders above the other. So maybe it's who's healthier that week, who's feeling better, who's ready to play at a high level that week. But I don't think I would bench James Hurst. I think he's played just fine, and as that offensive line continues to improve week to week, and James Hurst is part of that today, I say throw him back out there against Houston next week and see what happens against a defense that gave up 440-odd yards to the Atlanta Falcons today. So Saints offense, an opportunity to take another step forward next week, and could be a real important one as well. As I mentioned earlier, we can go through the Saints schedule a little bit here. They're 3-2, and I think if I was picking game by game before the season, I would have had them at 3-2 at this point. Now, I would have swapped. I would have had a win over Tampa Bay last week and a loss to New England here today. And really, you'll trade a win over an AFC team for a division win every time. So that would have been a better 3-2 than this is. But they're 3-2. They're fine. And if they can go beat Houston next week, they'll be 4-2. And as I said earlier, then you have Jacksonville at home, you're at Indianapolis, but then you get this stretch of like Chicago at home. There is a trip to Minnesota in there, but there's home games against the Giants and the Panthers and the Bears. The Bucks beat you, but I think the Saints will really be rearing to go for that trip to Tampa Bay at the end of the year. And then you've got the 2 big ones against the Atlanta Falcons. And I still have a feeling that this season, and whether the Saints are successful or not ultimately, is going to come down to those 2 games against Atlanta. First, the trip to Atlanta, at the end of November, then the home game against the Falcons to end the season on January the 7th. So I really think that's going to be the thing that decides this season for the Saints. Drop in the comments what you think the Saints will do. Let's say over the next 3 games: at Houston, home for Jacksonville, at Indianapolis. And by the way, Indianapolis lost quarterback Anthony Richardson again today, this time to a shoulder injury. I did see x-rays were negative on that. I did not see the ultimate diagnosis, or if there has been one yet, how long he'll be out. But Saints play the Colts in 3 weeks. Could Anthony Richardson be out for that game? He could be. So drop in the comments what you think the Saints will do over the next 3 games: at Houston, home for Jacksonville, at Indianapolis. I think obviously your goal there is to go 2-1. If you can go 2-1, then you're 5-3, and you've got the Bears at home. Bears have played a little bit better. But as I said, then the second half of the schedule gets easier. There's more home games. And so the Saints would really be set up well at 5-3. But let me know what you think the Saints will do. And we're going to take a quick break here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Here's a quick word from our sponsor.
We are Tulane Doctors. Physicians and scientists working side by side to advance academic medicine. We give our community access to the best possible medical remedies, developing state-of-the-art treatments to improve quality of life, address public health crises, and cure disease. All in passionate pursuit of our mission to provide inspired patient care for generations to come. Tulane Doctors. The future of medicine is here.
The Times-Picayune always gets it right. Jay's on top.
Not quite. It says here the Crusaders are the best.
I think you mean the Greenies, buddy.
These sports writers know what's up.
At least you're wearing the right colors, but we know why people read the paper. The one thing we can all agree on, we trust the Times-Picayune.
Subscribe today. Read it today. Trust it today. The Times-Picayune.
You're never gonna make the front page wearing that.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live from Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, about 45 minutes southwest of Boston. It's actually just as close to Providence, Rhode Island as you are to Boston here. Beautiful day here. Asked before the break what people thought the Saints would do over the next 3 games, and it looks like Stefan said 2-1, win over Houston and Indy, and losing to Jacksonville, so two more road wins. I mean, Saints have played well on the road. They're 2-1 on the road, and really probably should be 3-0. That game against Green Bay is one that got away from them. I don't know if they played unbelievably well in that game, but certainly a game that they could have held on to and should have held on to once they're up 17-0 at the end of 3 quarters. All right, Jeff and Luke are on their way from the locker room. We have waited for them quite a while today, but Saints had lots to say in the locker room. So Luke Johnson, Jeff Duncan coming out right now. And we'll wrap the show up with chats with them here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We encourage you to like our channel, subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel, and follow all of the action on NOLA.com/Saints. You can also go to NOLA.com/Saints Insider and sign up for our newsletter. And all of the links to all of our shows and our written content will be in your email inbox every single morning, 7 days a week. So that's NOLA.com/Saints Insider, totally free. Just put in your email address and you are subscribed to our newsletter. So Zach Ewing here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We're brought to you by Tulane Doctors. The Saints have defeated the New England Patriots 34-0. We'll go through one more time here the scoring plays. It started with a Tyrann Mathieu 26-yard interception return for a touchdown. Carl Granderson, the hit, Tyrann Mathieu, the interception. The New Orleans native gets his first touchdown as a Saint. That was followed up by an Alvin Kamara 2-yard touchdown run to make it 14-0. And then by a 5-yard Derek Carr touchdown pass to Chris Olave for a 21-0 lead. You're going to sense a theme here. That was also the first touchdown of the season for Alvin Kamara. and for Chris Olave. It was 24-0 at halftime after a 54-yard Blake Groupie field goal. And then in the second half, the Saints added a touchdown on I believe it was a 4-yard shovel pass from Derek Carr to Foster Moreau, another New Orleans native who scored his first touchdown as a Saint. And then Blake Groupie adds a 53-yard field goal late in the game. Final score of 34-0. The worst loss by the Patriots in this stadium, which opened in 2002. It is handed to them by the New Orleans Saints. It is the Saints' best shutout victory since 2012, a 41-0 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And really just one of those games that for the last quarter and a half, you were on easy street if you're a Saints fan. No stress, no panic. Even like the Packers game, there was no reason to think that there was ever a chance the Patriots could get back into this thing. So we are awaiting Luke Johnson and Jeff Duncan here on the Gillette Stadium turf. I'm Zach Ewing, and you're watching the Saints Insider Postgame Show, brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Okay, so they told me they were on their way to the field. I still don't see them. So we're going to keep hanging out here. Again, let us know what you think the Saints will do in their next 3 games. At Houston next week, home against Jacksonville on a Thursday night, and then you get kind of the long break before a road trip to Indianapolis on October the 29th. So 3 games that will really could set the Saints up very well for the second half of the season, or I think the Saints could easily go 1-2 in those games, be 4-4, and kind of be still chasing teams, chasing the Bucs and maybe the Falcons heading into that second half of the season. So very interesting stretch. 3 AFC teams, and by the way, the Saints will be done with AFC teams after that stretch. They're 2-0 against them. The Tennessee Titans in the opener, the New England Patriots today, and finishing up that AFC slate with 3 in a row at Houston, home for Jacksonville, at Indianapolis. And then if we want to, we can throw that home game against the Chicago Bears, who looked good on Thursday night. That one's on November the 5th. And I think if you're the Saints, you're really looking to go 3-1 in those games. And there's really no reason you shouldn't, playing, a couple of rookie quarterbacks in there in C.J. Stroud and possibly Anthony Richardson if he's healthy. You have a home game from Jacksonville, which is tough, but it's at home, and then you get the Bears at home. Like I think the goal is 3-1 in those 4 games, and getting to 6-3 on the season, heading into a second half of the slate that is loaded with home games and divisional opponents. And so the Saints could really set themselves up well, either to win the NFC South or to at least get an NFC wild card spot. Saints Insider Postgame Show is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. We're live here from Foxborough, Massachusetts on the Gillette Stadium turf, and I see Luke coming right now. So Luke Johnson, Saints beat writer, is on his way, and we are here. We're going to hear from him what Dennis Allen had to say, what Derek Carr had to say, and the other Saints after their 34-0 victory over the New England Patriots. Just a cathartic win for a team and a fan base that had a very stressful, kind of depressed week. So Luke is here, and he's going to grab a mic and join me. Times-Picayune Saints beat writer Luke Johnson. Now, Luke, I just used the word cathartic. Like this is exactly what the Saints needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here I'll put it this way. I think it's exactly what Saints fans needed. The team obviously needed something like this, but they are also understanding that they've still got 12 games left in the season, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They still got 12 games left in the season. They know they gotta continue stacking this. So it was really, really good for them today. This is exactly the type of performance that a lot of people kind of thought they would get out of this team, but they still know it's a long season. They can't get too high, too low.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying before. Is like, I don't think the offense was spectacular today. 304 yards. Obviously, wasn't pressed at all in the second half. Could have probably had more, but all you're asking for is an average NFL offense.
Yeah.
If you can get that, you will win a lot of games with this defense.
Yeah. No, and that's all we've been saying for 2 years now, right? Since the start of the 2021 season, they got off to that great start, and they're just like a middle of the road offense, but their defense is so good they're winning all these games. And this is all you need out of this team. You just need a team that's not going to make mistakes. Outside of the penalties today, they didn't turn the ball over, and you live on that defense, and you go out there, you score a couple touchdowns, you take advantage of your red zone opportunities, and you get to see a team that looks. Today's team looked like it was capable of beating just about anybody in the NFL, right? this is exactly why there were so many people that were just excited about this team. They have so many weapons on this offense that you can just see the floor of this offense. It felt like it would have been just middle of the road, right? Today, I think we saw a pretty good version of that offense, and there's definitely a better version of that offense out there.
The mood in the locker room. I kind of get the feeling that this is who the Saints think they are. Is that the sense you got?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's why they were so, pumped up about it before the season. This is, I mean. Yeah, I asked actually Tyrann Mathieu about it. Is this who you guys thought you were? And I think he took it to mean like, well, we're not going to go out there and shut everybody out every week. But yeah, they think they can go out and really dominate bad teams and beat good teams. Today they dominated a bad team. Let's not. The Patriots are bad. They're 1-4. They've allowed 4 defensive touchdowns this year. Their offense is a complete mess. Special teams, which has always been like one of Belichick's calling cards, they missed a field goal today. They had a couple shanked punts. Yeah, they're a bad team, but the Saints demolished them. And that's exactly what you want to see them do against a bad team.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question: was this the Saints being that good or the Patriots being that bad? And I think it's got to be both.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little bit of both. But I don't think we got a chance to really see how good the Saints offense can be today, because like you said, they pretty much just shut it down middle of the third quarter. Patriots did not get a first down for the last 27 minutes of this game.
This was as dreary of a third and fourth quarter as you'll see. It was worse than the Super Bowl.
We were like kind of complaining about it in the press box, but like, all right, I guess they're gonna just slam Alvin Kamara into a 9-man box again, because what else are you gonna do?
The cat calls and the boos and the guy flipping the jumbotron off.
Oh, that was my favorite part of the game.
Everything.
Look, for those who may have missed the tweet, okay, I don't know if you discussed this earlier.
I did not. Go ahead.
What song was playing? Do you remember? It's "Take on Me."
Yeah,
they were playing "Take on Me," and it just lingered on this group of like 3 old guys on the jumbotron for like 6 seconds. And when he finally realized what was happening, he flipped the camera off, and it was like the perfect moment from today's game.
It was almost scripted. The 2 guys on the outside are shaking their heads, and the guy in the middle just shows the bird to the camera. It's like that's how Patriots fans are feeling about this team. So, a little good from the Saints, a little bad from the Patriots, but you take what you can get in the NFL.
You take a win any way it happens, right? Saints are 3-2. Yeah, I think at this juncture of the season, we keep talking about it. You feel pretty good about 3-2. Right, you got a Houston team next week that has been, pretty plucky. I don't know what they ended up with, what the final score was in Atlanta today, but
21-19 Falcons win.
Yeah, it's a team that's been in just about every game. It's beat some teams that maybe some people didn't think they would beat. So it's not, you got to come out there next week and put the foot on the gas again. I think it's one of the things I wanted to say about this game is, the Saints, for as much as they are insular and they are to themselves, they heard the noise. We just got done talking to Mike Thomas. They heard the noise. They were aggressive today. Very early in the game, they're taking some shots downfield, not deep shots, but they're pushing the ball vertically a little bit. Pete Carmichael's listening to his players, seeing what they want, letting them run what they want. Not everything, but a lot of it. I think they knew. After last week's game, they really needed to get it going like now, and I think they did. They did a good job.
Yeah. And they didn't really get out of character either. It didn't seem like they forced anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this earlier, but I was a little afraid they were going to come out and just try to prove a point and throw some bombs and do reverses and flea flickers and all this. They stayed in character as well.
Yeah. No, they absolutely they knew that they had this Patriots team playing one-dimensional, and it's its worst dimension that they had to play with.
Yep.
Right. So they did not go out there and try to prove a point or anything. They were just like, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. We're going to, basically just put it in our defense's hands and win in absolute rout. I mean, it was never close. It was never close in this game.
I think the Patriots only crossed midfield 3 times. And one of those times they punted from plus 40 down
24-0. Yeah. They punted from the Saints 40-yard line down 24-0
on 4th and 3.
So, and they got like 20 yards of field position out of it.
I actually heard a Patriots TV reporter a few minutes ago, and I said this early in the show, but for those who weren't watching, said, I don't know if they're tanking for Caleb or they're just that bad on their own. But yeah, the Patriots not good, Saints very good. That's the story of today.
That's the story of today. Yeah, we'll see where it goes from here on out. But look, they needed this one bad. They might not say it. They needed it.
He's Luke Johnson, beat writer for the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. You can read his work on NOLA.com/Saints. And Jeff Duncan's waiting in the wings, so we'll let Luke make the handoff and wrap things up here. Here he is. Saints Insider Postgame Show. Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Times-Picayune, NOLA.com sports columnist. And Jeff, we just saw the Saints' biggest shutout victory in 11 years, 2012.
Right.
We saw the worst loss for the New England Patriots in this stadium, which is 21 years old. And we saw, actually, it's their worst shutout loss ever. It's their second shutout loss ever in the stadium. So we saw a historic beatdown.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. I was just walking out, ran into Freddie McAfee, longtime Saints player and executive with the team. He said, I've been in this game for 33 years, and I've never seen anything like that. So that kind of puts into perspective what we saw today. I mean, every once in a while a game gets away from a team, but I think what we saw today was the Saints kind of putting things together and catching a New England team that's really in full-scale disarray. Yeah. They've got a total crisis on their hands on that side of the sideline, and the combination of those two things just kind of snowballed into what we saw. It's kind of hard to get an evaluation, Zach, because New England was so bad. It was really hard to tell exactly how good the Saints were.
Yeah, and I asked Luke the same question, and I said, I think there's only one answer to this question, but were the Saints that good or were the Patriots that bad? And I think the answer's got to be both.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to take anything away from the Saints because they did exactly what they needed to do. They needed to have a complete game. I thought this was kind of a signature win for Dennis Allen. I mean, he's been searching for a win like this since he's become the head coach a year and a half ago. He finally got a signature win going against, a Hall of Fame coach and Bill Belichick, a guy that had a team equally desperate. And we saw the way the Saints responded, and you didn't see the same response from the Patriots. So I think this speaks well of Dennis Allen and his staff and also the leaders on the Saints team. I mean, this was a difficult week for the Saints. They were under a lot of fire, rightfully so, and they responded. They responded in a positive way. They didn't splinter. The locker room stayed together, and we saw their best performance of the year. That's a very good sign.
Yeah, I mean, a win in the NFL is a win in the NFL. And let's not forget the Patriots were favored in this game. I mean, the wise guys who have money on the line, who are setting this line, said the Patriots should win, and the Saints beat them 34-0. So you can't take anything away from this team. The question now is, what do we have going forward? Do you think we continue to see sort of the more aggressive downfield offense? Do you think we continue to see this type of performance as the Saints kind of go into the middle part of their schedule here?
Well, we talked on the podcast this week about Saints needing to find an identity. I think they found it today. I mean, this is the formula, right? Solid defense, good special teams, and then an efficient, balanced offense. They've got to be able to run the ball. They did today effectively. They're never going to be a juggernaut offense. That's just not the way they're going to play. But they need to be efficient in certain situations, the key situations. And they were today. Red zone, third down, goal to go. They were able to execute in those key situations and get touchdowns instead of field goals. And that made the difference. That's something that's been eluding them all year long. So we saw progress in that regard. I talked to a number of players today. Hey, did you all do anything differently offensively? No, we just played better. They just executed better. I know that's kind of football jargon, but it's the truth. They blocked better. They handled their assignments better. Everyone across the board, coaches coached better, had a better plan. So it wasn't any magic elixir. They didn't get, in the lab and come up with new plays. The guys, on the field just executed better.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, but just two real positive points that I want to hear your take on: the offensive line and the defensive line, particularly Carl Granderson. But the whole Saints dominated the trenches, which is usually what it takes to win a game like this.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a game where a team went 1 for 16 on 3rd and 4th down the way the Patriots did. I mean, that is utter and complete domination. And look, we know the Saints defense is the strength of the team. I was concerned a little bit about the front seven going into this season, but we saw them today completely dominate New England up front. New England could not run the ball. They tried to establish a run early on. And once they couldn't run, that really allowed the Saints defense to come after Mac Jones. And this has now become a recurring theme. Mac Jones, under pressure, does not perform well. And we saw the tone-setting interception by Tyrann Mathieu. The pick six really was I thought the key to the whole game, because once the Saints were able to get the lead, they were able to play the way they wanted to play and kind of force the Patriots' hand a little bit. Once it got 14-0, with the struggles that New England's having, trying to move the ball against this Saints defense that really seemed dialed in on what New England was doing. There was really no answer from New England and no answer from the Patriots sideline.
Yeah, it got out of hand quickly. And then just a quick word on the offensive line, which I don't know if it was dominant, but clearly this is the type of performance they need from that unit.
Yeah, they're coming along. There's no doubt. They're getting better. I think we're seeing some improvement, certainly from the left tackle and Trevor Penning. And that's a good front they played today. And again, they didn't dominate in terms of numbers in the running game, but they got yards when they needed to. I mean, Foster Moreau is just saying, look, when you're in a game like this and the other team knows you need to run the ball and we still are able to get 7 yards, 6 yards, that's big-time football.
Yeah.
And that's what the Saints were able to do today, and it kept Derek Carr out of really difficult situations. And I thought Carr played a lot better. There was a couple of 3rd and 11, I think a 3rd and 9, that he was able to have time. The offensive line gave him time, and he was able to find people downfield. I thought he played much improved today and really in key moments delivered, and I think bolstered the confidence of the entire offense.
Absolutely. So a much happier Saints locker room today and a much happier Saints Insider Postgame Show. Saints beat the New England Patriots 34-0. He's Jeff Duncan. You can read his work on NOLA.com/Saints. One more time, hit the like button, subscribe to our Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel, and help us grow this thing. We keep doing these postgame shows all year long. For Jeff Duncan and Luke Johnson, who is back, who was with me earlier, and then Zoe Collins-Rath, who's back behind the board producing the show. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks to our sponsor, Tulane Doctors, and thank you for watching the Saints Insider Postgame Show.